Report story. Ochako was bored. It was Monday, classes had started back up after the weekend and Izuku was not in class. He had been confined to watching Eri and doing school on his own for the time being due to his quirk being gone. Ochako looked back at the empty seat she got so used to staring at. Empty. She sighed slightly. Class wasn't the same without the presence of her green-haired lover. She turned back, half listening to the lecture Aizawa was giving. Half her brain wondering what the answer was to what the best methods of limited damage control were, while the other half was wondering what Izuku was doing right now. That should wrap it up for this class. Make sure you study that, we will have a quiz on it tomorrow. The class groaned. Calm down unless you want another training camp. You still have a few minutes before class is out, so take this time to study. Uraraka, Kirishima, Asui, meet with me before you leave. And with a fall and a zip of the bag, Aizawa was asleep. Ochako. The alien girl called out, skipping over to Ochako's desk. Ochako, where's your other half today? Is everything okay with you too? Ochako blinked. Izuku hadn't told the rest of the class that he had lost his quirk. They also hadn't told the class that they were okay now after their fight. Yes, I'm also curious. Momo asked, turning in her head towards Ochako. Ochako waved her hands in front of her. We're fine, fine, I promise. We're actually more than fine. Ochako said quietly, blushing and looking away, remembering her shower time alone with Izuku. This did not go unnoticed by Mina. An evil grin appeared on her face. I see that look. How far have you and Midoriya gone? Mina asked devilishly, leaning on the desk close to Ochako's face. Mina, Momo cried. Ochako put her hands over her face trying to hide the furious blush quickly engulfing her. Ishido. That is not appropriate for class discussions. Iida said, swinging his arm at her. Mina ignored him. I haven't gotten an answer. Mina said evilly. Ochako peeked between her fingers. We haven't gone all the way yet. Shit. Yet. Mina cried before a white scarf wrapped around her forehead. Quiet, before I make you quiet. Aizawa said from his sleeping bag before rolling over. Before Mina could continue, Bakugo stormed his way to Ochako's desk, placing a hand down on it. Where's the nerd? He didn't come to our training today. Today, Bakugo said. His voice still had a tang of aggression towards it, but his voice was calmer than usual. Ochako looked directly in his eyes. Bakugo knew about One for All, he should know about this. Eri must have distracted Izuku. Wait for me after class, Ochako said, leaning close and whispering near Bakugo's ear. Bakugo clicked his tongue, disgusted by having to wait, but the spiky blonde walked away. What was that about? Mina asked. Oh, you know. Defending Izu. Ochako said with a smile. Once the bell rang, everyone had flooded out except for Kirishima, Asui, and Uraraka. Aizawa appeared from out his sleeping bag. Alright, you three. I called you three out specifically because it either personally, Aizawa looked at Ochako, are consequentially involved in this. You three remember the rescue mission for the girl Eri, correct? Yes, the three of them said. Aizawa continued. Well, lingering effects from that mission are turning up even now. I'm sure you've noticed Midoriya isn't here. Midoriya over the weekend while out on a run was hit with one of the drugs that Chisaki had created. For the time being, Midoriya is quirkless. Promoted stories. You'll also like. Falling 71.4k 1.3 Kever. Since Izuku Midoriya joined UA High School and settled in, he knew that the League of Villains were after him and his quirk, one for all. However, when the time see revenge of the wronged hero who happens to be, one could have thought that someone as pure and innocent as Izuku Midoriya would be betrayed by his friends who he thought that he could trust with everything he has. Shining Light 42.6k 928 Quickless, normal, no heroes or quirks. Izuku Midoriya and Ochako Uraraka have been best friends since kindergarten. But when problems in high school try to drift them, there's something up with Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya had watched his mentor fight for his life and end up using the last of his power. Now being the sole wielder of One for All, Izuku knows he needs to work. Golden, Hispanic, Latina. Femme. Reader. Ex-Izuku. Heiress to the richest company in the world. The government of Japan has good relationships with your grandfather. It was the duty of the government to save, dream on, B.K. Downwards arrow tip rightwards, in which a jealous bachelor signs a deal with the devil in order to win over the heart of his first love. Katsuki Bakugo has loved the PR. The quirkless lie and unseen power. S1N. Kurayami has always lived in the shadows, pretending to be quirkless in a world that reveres power. Her secret isn't weakness, it's Mindweb, a terrifying ability. What? No way. Kirishima yelled, balling his fist. Is Midoriya okay? Ribbit. Asui asked. Both of the students looked at Ochako, who looked back at them. Ochako sadly smiled at them. He's fine. He's thinking of other ways he could train to prep for his quirk coming back. That's manly of him. Staying positive, of course he'll get his quirk back. Kirishima said, pounding his fist together. But that third year never got his quirk back. Asui said, looking at Aizawa. We will find a way to get Midoriya's quirk back. His quirk isn't why I brought you here. Midoriya is a repercussion of the true issue. The villain who hit him with it seems to be an amateur villain at play. We don't suspect he has any more quirk bullets since he didn't hit Uraraka when she caught up to Midoriya. We also found remains of empty places at the believed living quarters of the villain. The reason I've called you here is to ask if you students would like to go back on patrol. I will be asking more students, but since you three have a connection to this, I figured best to ask you first. Absolutely. We need to get this guy before he hurts anyone else. Kirishima yelled with a sharp smile. It would be great experience. We haven't seen a real mission since the rescue. Asui said with a finger to her lip. Of course I'm in. I need to catch this guy for the sake of Izuku. Ochako said, making a martial arts pose. I'm coming too. A loud angry voice called, the door slamming open. A blonde spiky-haired teen walked in as angry as ever. If there's a villain out there, I'll kill him. Bakugo called. Bakugo. That's the spirit. We'll capture him together. Kirishima said, turning to face him. Shut up, shitty hair. As long as there's no killing, I don't see why not. However, Aizawa called before wrapping his scarf around Bakugo. A student shouldn't be listening into my conversations with other students. Don't do it again, Aizawa said with red eyes to stop a struggling Bakugo from exploding the scarf. Fine, I won't, but I'm going. Bakugo said before the scarf wrapped around his mouth to shut him up. I already said you could go now, quit yapping. Everyone now leave, except for Uraraka. Everyone, Bakugo begrudgingly, filed out the room, leaving Ochako and Aizawa. I know you and Midoriya have been dating for a while now. Aizawa started, his eyes staring down at Ochako. Look, I trust you on this mission, but I know how you can be when it comes to him, even before you guys were a thing. You can get angry and it ruins your better judgment at time. I know you're angry at Gaslighter and wanna get back at him. Ochako's eyes got wide. She thought she had hit it well, but Aizawa was spot on. She was furious. She wanted to make Gaslighter pay for what he did to Izuku. Ochako looked down at the floor, balling her fist up Aizawa's side. You can never get rid of personal aggressions toward villains, especially when they hurt someone you care for, but don't let that guide you. Do things the right way, don't go too far and make the right calls if you're the patrol hero who finds him. Got it? Don't make me regret putting you on this. Ochako looked up at Aizawa, at first with surprise, but quickly turning to determination. Yes, sir. Aizawa nodded. All right, now get out of here. Bakugo seems to want something with you since he's still standing out there. Ochako bowed quickly before grabbing her backpack and running out the room. Spill it, round face. Deku lost one for all. If he got that quirk destroyed, I'll murder him. Bakugo asked, walking next to her, his hand raised giving off tiny explosions. Ochako sighed. She couldn't read Bakugo. Did he ask because he was worried for Izuku, or because he was worried about All Might's quirk? Or was he upset he couldn't fight Izuku in training anymore? It literally could be any of them. Or even all of them. According to Izuku, One for All is still there. He feels that it will activate under extreme conditions on its own. Ochako said, slightly glaring at Bakugo but holding back. But it's unreliable. His own control over it is pretty much gone from the drug. We think it's affecting him differently since his body isn't built for quirks naturally. Quote dot. That nerd. I'll kill him if he lost All Might's quirk. Bakugo said. We have a plan to try and reconnect him to One for All, Ochako said with a sneer. You can join, you yourself may even need it. It takes a calm mind though. I am fucking calm. Alright, this should be it, Izuku said to Eri, who was on his shoulders. Ah, it's so pretty. Eri said with her hands in the air. Izuku had walked through the woods into a clearing that was located in the school grounds. Izuku picked Eri up and set her down. Alright Eri, I'm trusting you. Don't go too far and stay where I can see you. I'll be right here, okay? Izuku said, squatting to her level. Okay Deku, Eri said running off into the field. Izuku watched as he chuckled to himself. He had already completed his school work for the day. Reading and doing the work was a lot faster on his own time without distractions from other students. Having Eri was nice too. She stayed quiet during his studies and even sat in his lap while he read some of them. Now it was time for the second task he had for this dorm schooling, training his One for All connection. Izuku sat in the grass, crossing his legs and doing the meditation pose with his fingers. He had studied and watched a few videos about meditation techniques and what he was trying to accomplish. The goal of meditation was to find a clearer state of mind, to calm oneself and create balance. This allowed people to think clearly, plan and understand themselves. One for All functioned on a similar principle, only taking over in a calm, clear state of being. If Izuku could master the technique of meditation, it may allow him to connect to One for All on an inner level. Izuku's goal, to be able to enter One for All. Every time One for All took over, he, more so his consciousness, was moved to a separate reality where all the other users' consciousness resided. Was this inside of One for All? Izuku had nicknamed this the Ofa realm. Izuku sat in silence, doing his best to calm his mind. Focus on One for All. Focus on One for All. Ah. Izuku laid back in the grass and stared at the sky, the clouds silently flying overhead. Clearing your mind was a lot harder to do. Izuku had usually worked out or blasted his way through his problems. At the very least, creating complicated plans to solve them. But just sitting here. Come on, Izuku. Come on. Izuku sat back up into his crisscrossed state and closed his eyes. Last time he felt the tingle, however, that was before the drug. He just had to clear his mind and focus on that again. Like a cloud. Izuku was just like the cloud floating by, feeling the breeze against his skin, calm, collected, breathing. Izuku felt at peace. Very faintly did he feel the connection for One for All. Izuku didn't even realize he had felt it. You're catching on. Izuku heard a voice say. Izuku's eyes snapped open and looked around. No one was there, except for Eri rolling around in the distance. Izuku looked up at the clouds. He was sure he heard a voice. Izuku thought for a second and realized he had felt the familiar tingle of One for All. He had made it. Even if it was only partially. He had made it to the OFA realm. I kinda run out of stuff to say down here for the time being, Sue. How is everyone? Kenny boy, where stories live. Discover now.